Hi, everybody. It's Richard Taubinger, the founder of Conscious Marketer, and welcome to the Conscious Marketer podcast. I'm also joined by my co-host, Kylie Slavik. Hi, Kylie.
Hello.
And today we thought we would share a little bit about a online strategy / business model that is the summit model. And online summits have been around for a long time. Back in the day, I would say like in the mid 2000s, they used to just be audio. So you would like dial into audio lines and just listen to multiple audio talks over certain days. And then I want to say it was around 2007, 8, video really came on the scene and a whole new model emerged where there were groups of people around a topic that would come together for like 4 or 5 days. And so if you don't know what an online summit is, normally it's between 3 and it could be up to 30 days. An average summit is probably 5 to 7 days. And what you do is you have a host or 2 hosts. And then what you do is you bring on experts in a certain field, and those people can just be interviewed, or they could actually give a presentation. And then there's another variation where all of the talks can be pre-recorded, or they can be streamed live. So you can actually do the summits live. And the whole idea behind a summit is that everybody that participates in the summit emails their lists into the opt-in for the summit. And so if you're the host of a summit, the idea is that you get everybody to mail, and it's a list build. And then you kind of position yourself as an authority or an expert as part of the host. Now, as this has been done through the years, I think that one of the myths that is around now is that this doesn't work anymore and that summits are overdone and people are tired of summits. But what we can say is, I would say we do 2 or 3 summits a year. And I would say the strategy still works. It's just the way summits are done, the way you present them, the way you approach partners has changed through the years. So let's talk a little bit. Are summits dead? Is there any opportunities? Is there a way to maybe integrate this into your business? Kylie, do you have any thoughts on kind of like any points of clarification on what a summit is and where we could start here? Because it's really a big topic, but it's something that's a really powerful strategy if you understand it.
Yeah. And before I even get into that, I want to say, when you said "Are summits dead?" it made me laugh because people always want to say Facebook is dead, Instagram is dead, Google is dead. Are any of those three sites dead? Absolutely not. There's billions of people on there every day. So people want to say summits are dead, but it's because people have done summits badly, right?
Right.
So to refine what we're talking about, it's just, this is a beautiful way to create value for an audience on topics that they're interested in, so that the summit host can get that list build. And it also puts the speakers in the spotlight, which I love. You know, and Richard actually taught me everything I know about summits. I really don't know as much as he knows about it, but we put together a storytelling summit that had some of the best storytellers in the entire world. And it made me look good because I was interviewing them. And it made them look good because none of them are people that would put themselves out on Facebook like we did, or like we're going to, or whatever it is. So it's really supposed to be what I learned when I managed affiliate programs. It's supposed to be a win-win-win. It's supposed to be a win for the host, a win for the speakers, and a win for the audience. And if it isn't that, that is the reason people say that summits are dead, because people, again, have done them badly. So Richard, I'm curious to hear from you. What do you think makes a good summit that really, truly provides value for the audience?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. Well, I think that the first thing is that I would say there's like 2 factors when you're designing the concept of summit that's really important. And one is that when we think of summits, I normally try to think of like, what's the movement behind it, or what's the wave behind it. Sometimes I say that, if you've heard me talk about the wave theory, but for example, we did a servant leadership summit a few years back, and we partnered with a company called publisher called Barrett Kohler, is an amazing conscious business publisher. And we also partnered in that summit with Ken Blanchard, who's I think authored like 70 plus books. He's a real management guru, but his passion was about getting servant leadership in the world, about how leaders become the servant, and they should be, integrating all the conscious principles like values-based leadership. And so Ken was really passionate about this, and also passionate about getting servant leadership more known in the world. And so he basically picked up the phone and called all of his friends, like Tony Robbins was on that summit, and a lot of other like amazing, authors. And so we had, I think, 40 people on that summit. And so the point there was that there was a movement behind it. We did another summit with a person called Thomas Hubel, and his movement was on collective trauma. And this was before COVID and everything, but he believed that there was a whole field of psychotherapy that needed to be developed around therapy around collective trauma events. Like it could be like a war, or it could be a famine, or a environmental disaster where entire populations experience trauma. And what as a community could we do to support those people? So he kind of created this summit around this particular movement. And so I guess the first principle would be, like, when you're thinking of a concept for a summit, then think of the larger movement that's behind it. The second aspect that I would say is think about how it's related to what's happening in the world now. So when we released the first conscious, or the collective trauma summit, this was, I think, 3 years ago. This was pre-COVID. So we got the timing was right, because it was right before all this happened. And then the second year and the third year, it kept growing because collective trauma was really at the forefront of everything that was happening in the world at that time. And then we chose speakers and topics like diversity and inclusion and the environment that were relevant to what was happening in the world. So it's you have this movement, but then you also have kind of like what's actually relevant to people that are happening now. And then you have a summit that's not boring. It's not like, oh, they're just trying to do this to build a list, or it's like not like it's not gamey. It's actually like somebody standing in front of this movement and what's happening in the world, because they're passionate. They care about what's going on, and they want to bring all these voices to talk about it, and they want to bring community together. And when you have that kind of dynamic, then those are the summits that get 100,000 or more opt-ins, because people actually care about the event,
I love that. If somebody's never done a summit before, where would you suggest that they start?
Well, a summit is kind of interesting because we're on this podcast here and we bring people in to interview. And so you can think of a summit as, first of all, you don't have to call it a summit. It can just be an online event. But a summit is basically a podcast with guests that you just put together over 3 or 4 days. So you could do a summit, you could do like a 5-day summit with one speaker a day. And so, and you could call it like an online virtual event. You don't have to call it a summit. Sometimes people are like, oh, summits are dead. So call it an online workshop, or call it an online training event. So you can call it a lot of different things, a conference, online conference. What I would say is that my recommendation is always to start small. So start with a smaller event of like 5 or 7 speakers. There's a lot of different summit models out there. I want to share 5 models with you just so you have kind of an overview of the landscape. So the first would be what I would just call a micro summit. So it's like 5 to 7 speakers over 3 or 4 days. And so you just release those pre-recorded interviews over 3 or 4 days, and then you ask the speakers to mail. So that's the first version. It's a micro summit. You don't see that run much, and a lot of people try to go bigger thinking it's better, but I really like that micro model, and we run it occasionally, and it really works well. The second type of summit would be more like you just increase the number of days and speakers. So this would be more like a core summit. And so that might be 20 speakers over 10 days, or 7 days. And so really you're just increasing the scale. What you have to realize with each speaker that you do in a summit, you might spend 8 to 9 hours because you have the interview prep and the recording and the collection of data and all this kinds of things. And so if you do a summit with 20 people, it might take your team 200 hours, of time to create it. So don't underestimate. It's better to actually have a smaller summit, unless you have a lot of resources behind it. The third type of summit is what I call a mega summit. It's like 50 people or 70 people. And we run 1 or 2 of these a year, and they're really big undertakings. Sometimes a typical summit like that might take $250,000 to produce. And we might pump in up to $500,000 in ad spend on these bigger things. You only really want to do this if you have a really efficient, established team. These are the types of events that can be 7-figure income opportunities and really these massive list builds. But you need some serious manpower or woman power or person power behind it to run these bigger events. The last 2 models I'll give you is there's something called a live summit. And rather than pre-record everything, you can just over 5 days, 3 to 5 days, you can just have a couple live Zoom calls. And sometimes we do this. We kind of innovated a model in the field of astrology. We would do like a live forecast for one of my previous companies that I was a partner in. And for 3 days, we would just do live astrology forecasts at the beginning of the year. It was highly successful. And then off the back of that, we would sell like a membership program. The last model I'll give you is it's like a docuseries, and that's where you kind of go around, and you've probably seen some of these bigger docuseries like Truth About Cancer, and there's a few of them out there. But really, what it is, it's more highly produced, and it's like you create episodes, and you're like splicing all the different speakers together. It's a completely different model. Maybe we could do a different episode on that, but it's so there's 5 models right there. There's actually a few more, and there's a few different versions, but your basic question was how to start. I would say, like, well, look, think of how to integrate an online event with maybe 5 speakers in, and then just start there around a really specific topic that you're passionate about, and then find friends and influencers that would want to participate in that.
So I get the list building sort of motivation. Where does the revenue come in on these things?
Oh, that's such a great question. It's like, this is such a big area. So generally people opt in, and then right as they opt in, what we normally do is send them to a thank you page and say, look, how it normally works is you can get all the, if you attend live or as the summit is being held over, say, the 5 days, people can listen to the recordings for free, and then you give people the option to purchase the recordings. And what we normally do to encourage, people to purchase the recordings is we'll add something on. So for example, it was kind of a hybrid movie documentary plus summit with on the wisdom of trauma with Gabor Mate, with one of our partners, Science and Non-Duality. Wonderful program. And so part of the upgrade package was a course with Dr. Mate. And so not only did you get the recordings, but you got a course by him. And so that encouraged them to purchase. So there's kind of the right off the back end. And then as people go through the summit, they often don't have time to listen. And so you can send them emails and follow up in a closing sequence to encourage people to upgrade. The second aspect is right after the summit, you have a really engaged list. And so often after the summit is over, we'll have some kind of follow-up offer. And that offer could be something similar price or lower price, or it could be even more of an advanced program. So it could be a certificate program, or it could be, it could even be a high-end offer. It could be a mastermind. And so once you build a list and people know who you are and know what you care about and the movement you stand behind, then you can think through like what the follow-up offer would be. And so often you can 2 or 3 times the revenue on a summit with whatever your back-end offer is.
Well, it definitely sounds exciting. How would you say that people choose the speakers?
Yeah, that's such a great question. We kind of like to bucket the speakers in 3 categories. And the first category of speakers would be people who are just really amazing experts in whatever field you're in. And there are always people who are really great teachers, but they may not be as known to other people. And so if you know people that can come on and really provide a lot of value to the listeners, then it's really important to have those people in. And it could be also people that you just really love their work and they're close to you in some way. The second bucket would be people who have maybe a list, and sometimes you might invite people who have, an email list that's related to what you do, and you could invite them to be on as a speaker for a certain topic, as an example. So that's the second bucket, people who have maybe sizable mailing list and could speak on a topic that's relevant to the summit. And then the third bucket are kind of like the celebrity kind of people in your industry, and they're people that they may not mail their lists, they may not they may just have opinions on what's happening, but their appearance in your summit provides kind of some social pull, and it's interesting, So for example, when we do business summits, a lot of times the people who are interesting are the major CEOs that appear. Now they per se aren't experts on anything other than running their company. And they often will not mail their email list. Sometimes they'll post on their social feed, but they have a lot of celebrity pull. If you have a CEO from, say, a major company, maybe it's an eco company or conscious business or publisher or something like that. And so what you want to do is find a nice balance between basically the celebrities, the list builders, and the experts. And occasionally you find somebody that hits all three of those, and that's ideal. Ideally, if you could just have 5 people on or 7 people on that had a list, were celebrities, and had like an amazing topic they could teach about and to provide value, then you'd have like the ingredients for a good summit. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love it. It sounds like summits aren't dead.
Yeah, they're definitely not dead, but I do think I think the way to approach it is to create, a summit that has some soul, that has some real passion, and then, like modulate to what your capacity of your company is. And so if you have 1 or 2 people in your company, then, create a smaller event, create a 1-day event or a 3-day event. And then as you grow, then your summit can get bigger. Sometimes the best way to learn about summits is actually to be on summits. And so you can contact people who are doing summits. You can be speakers on summits, and you can just kind of see how it works. And then if you see online events and summits in the market, sign up for them, see the marketing and sales funnel that people are running, and you'll start to resonate with certain things. And then, if the universe channels a great idea for you, then go for it, do something. I think that every time you create something in the world that can help people, that can add value, summits are a great way to help people get information, potentially to change their consciousness around a topic. I know like that summit I did with Ken Blanchard and servant leadership, that literally changed how I thought about management and about values-based leadership. And, that summit changed me. Other summits have changed me as well. Just interviewing these people has like changed me. So it's a transformative experience as the host. And then also, you're being of service to other people. And the nice thing is most summits, you're offering it free of charge if people want to listen. And then you can always upgrade people on the back end too. So it's kind of a win-win-win, as long as you don't bite off more than you can chew. Cause I think that's the mistake that you have to like be careful of, is to create these massive events where maybe they eat up a lot of resources, but don't provide a lot of value on the back end.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, that was super helpful, especially for anyone trying to create something like this. And I like what you said about just creating one with 5 people, and then there's 50 people. And I think with anything in marketing, we can adapt it and make it our own.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can, and there are a lot of different versions. And, like I said, if you just think of a podcast, if you're running a podcast, that's basically a series of interviews. And so the difference is just, you're putting these interviews together over 5 or 7 days or something like that. So it's a great model. Think about integrating it at some point in your business. Think about participating. There's a lot more details. I mean, in producing a summit and managing a summit and, pulling it off with the technology and all that. But we just basically wanted to present it as a model. There's probably no other model that we've seen that has created the list builds that we've seen for major companies. And if I think of some of the major publishers in the industry, especially in the online space, the number one way that they've actually built their whole business has been through online events and summits. It's been the number one tool they've actually used over challenges, over quizzes, over paid advertisements. The summit model has been really a game changer. And I think it will continue to evolve. And I think there'll be continually new platforms and ways to do online summits in the future.
I love it. Well, everybody, get out there and just start somewhere.
Start somewhere, get a summit going. And thanks so much for joining us on Conscious Marketer podcast here. And happy to serve you. And you can find us on iTunes, Apple. You can find us on Spotify, Amazon Music. And if you like this podcast, if you feel like something that was of value to you, please go leave a review. We don't run ads. That's our one ask, is to share it with other people so that they can learn and grow too. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate you.
Bye.